Is that you, Euron? I didn't recognize you. So the Germans now are using their vehicles as cover. Beautiful. Because they don't have that much ammunition. Every soldier only has 40 rounds. Okay, third German casualty. Now you might think that the idea of bicycle infantry seems silly, but there are two things you need to consider. Welcome to History Legends, and in this video I'll do a step-by-step analysis of a Danish movie called April 9th that covers the German invasion of Denmark that took place on April 9th, 1940. It tells the story of a Danish bicycle platoon that has to stop the advance of a German motorized column. But as always, before we start, don't forget to like, hit the bell, and subscribe. And check out my unique veterans book. There's a Danish war story similar to that event. Link is in the bio. So what you have to understand is that the Danish troops just got there and they didn't have time to prepare any type of defenses. And you can see the anxiety in their faces because all they trained was how to change bicycle tires. But you see multiple fire teams, they're spread out. Excellent start. Even the Germans are spread out. But you see the problem of having no radios. All the orders work through eye contact. Very difficult to coordinate. So one German casualty. Excellent. What I love about this scene already is that the Germans only lost one casualty, so we're off with a good start. Now the goal when setting up an ambush is to destroy the enemy force before they can fire back. But in order to do this properly, you need more firepower than the defenders. However, in this case, the German motorized column has more firepower and it's gonna get very complicated for the Danish troops. Now the problem here is pretty obvious. The Danish troops have not enough men and they're not properly equipped to face such a motorized and armored column. Now at least they have some light machine guns, but they don't have any anti-tank mines, no anti-tank guns. They don't even have mortars. Now if we think about it, mortars would have been very useful. While the light machine guns pinned down the German infantry, the mortars could have targeted some of the vehicles or even the exposed infantry. But now you're probably thinking about this Darth Vader-like helmet the Danish troops are wearing. So I had to look it up and it's called the M1923 combat helmet. But from this battle scene it seems the helmet blocks the overall field of vision, so not that great. And it also kind of looks quite heavy, but apparently it only weighs 2.85 pounds, which is approximately the same weight as the German Stahlhelm. So this combat helmet was made in Denmark, just like this light machine gun we see in this battle scene. To be honest, I was really intrigued by it, so I looked it up and it's called a Madsen. Interestingly enough, it dates back 1902 and it's the world's first real light machine gun produced in quantity. Apparently it was used by all sides during the Mexican Revolution as well as during the Russo-Japanese War. The Imperial Russian Army bought 1,250 Madsen for the cavalry. So this weapon was very advanced for its time, but surprisingly, it didn't become very popular during World War I. Did you notice? Every soldier has a number. Okay, second German casualty. Okay, now the infantry fires on the German infantry. Because they don't have that much ammunition. Every soldier only has 40 rounds. Okay, third German casualty. And now the Germans are firing back. Their tanks, they're in trouble. If this would have been a Hollywood movie, there would have been already 60 dead German soldiers on the ground. And I really appreciate how this movie went for a more restrained and realistic depiction of the battle. You know, in movies, typically the ones getting ambushed stay in the open and they get wrecked. But here, not only do the Germans lay flat and look for cover, the German machine gunners set up their position and pin down the Danish infantry while the Germans use their numerical advantage to flank the Danish defenders. When the enemy has more men and they start to flank you, you're screwed. Now, if you want to picture this, in my book, there's a similar story with inexperienced Yugoslav partisans that set up an ambush against a motorized German column, but then it turns to shit and it becomes chaotic. But also we can't forget that the Danish resistance on April 9th lasted 6 hours. And within these 6 hours, the Danish army lost 26 killed and 23 wounded, while the German army lost 20 killed and wounded. So the Germans now are using their vehicles as cover. Beautiful. Is that you, Euron? I didn't recognize you. Wait, is that him? I'm not sure. But right now the Danish troops are pinned down. They're getting flanked. A wide flanking maneuver. It's pretty bad. More troops. And at this rate, they're going to lose their ammo very quick. Terrible situation for such inexperienced troops. Very difficult order. Honestly, everybody mocks retreats, but pulling a proper retreat is one of the hardest tactical moves an officer can pull. It's very easy for your troops to panic, and with the entire surrounding chaos, your retreat can easily become a rout. And this moment when soldiers are running away from the battlefield, this is also when a lot of casualties happen. They turn their back to their enemy. They're fully exposed. Often many casualties happen in these situations. Especially in this situation when they have no coordination between the fire teams and there's no fire support for them to safely retreat. So for this lieutenant, it's also his first time in combat and must be very hard to order a retreat already. Wow, lucky shot. A couple armored vehicles got damaged during the battle. Oh, they're screwed. They're screwed. And with inexperienced troops, the moment the first casualties happen, it's very hard, usually, for the morale. Especially since they're all friends here. You see no radio communications, they can't coordinate an entire withdrawal. And now the Germans see that they face no real opposition, no anti-tank guns. The armored vehicles just push in. Yeah, the machine gun is very useful now. It's their most valuable weapon. They're already so lightly equipped. So right after this, Euron Greyjoy, this second lieutenant, gathers the handful of soldiers around him and they retreat. They take back their bicycles they had left behind and they escape towards the forests. And we learn later on that the Danish troops that stood their ground ended up surrendering. Now, I wanted to talk shortly about this bicycle battalion that Denmark put up. There's only very little information online about it, but what I found out is that Denmark created this regiment of 1,800 soldiers right before World War II. However, by the time of the German invasion, only one battalion of 800 men was fully equipped with bicycles. Now you might think that the idea of bicycle infantry seems silly, but there are two things you need to consider. First of all, bicycles were a cheap way to increase the overall mobility of infantry when an army didn't have the budget for many motorized vehicles. And bicycles also required way less maintenance than cavalry units. And the second important thing to consider is that this regiment was created in 1937, the same year the Japanese invaded China. And the relative rapid progression of Japanese troops in China probably inspired Danish commanders to invest as well in bicycles. Because you can't forget that the Japanese equipped 50,000 men with bicycles before the invasion, and they were the ones winning the battles. The Japanese loved bicycles. Bicycles allowed for a silent and flexible transport of thousands of troops, who were then able to confuse and surprise the defenders. They also loved bicycles because it did not require any precious gasoline, and it allowed every soldier to carry up to 36 kilograms of equipment, which was double what the Japanese infantrymen would usually carry. But obviously there are many problems associated with such bicycle regiments. There's no protection and it's very difficult for them to carry heavy weapons. And with the rise of the Air Force, such bicycle units soon became obsolete as combat units. With that being said, the movie is excellent, highly recommended. I still have to review the other battle scene in the village. It proves you that you can make a realistic war movie with a limited budget.